all those who've listened to this podcast or watched it for a while, you know me. I'm a fan of a training aid, and thanks to training aids, I've gotten to meet that guy over there. If you're watching on YouTube, all smiling, looking handsome, he's Dan Frost. If you're on audio, we're going to talk you through the use of the training aids. Just go check out YouTube. Anyway, Dan, I'm making this about me. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Mark. Absolute pleasure to join you today from very rainy, just outside of London. So
Well,
yeah, it's nice.
I'm just outside of Atlanta. It's pretty rainy here too, so I can sympathize with you. All right,
Yeah,
Dan. Before we get to the nuts and bolts of this, all right.
yeah.
I want to. I've sort of seen you from afar, having taught golf over there in Europe a little bit, and I've seen you on Golf Channel a little, back in the day. Tell our global audience a little bit about Dan Frost, who you are, how you came to where you are right now, please.
Okay, Dan Frost, avid golfer,
Mhm.
obsessed child with sport. Essentially, for me, it was really, yeah, just obsessive nature towards anything that involved the ball. That led to a very inquisitive brain. Seemed to have pretty good coordinations when I was younger. So I loved the loneliness of golf. Away from team sports, I was able to grind,
Mhm.
get better, explore, discover, read books, try and emulate the things in the classic books from Snead, Hogan. Huge Faldo fan.
Mhm.
Um, just really my pathway. I became obsessed with performance technique, any which way I could get better against any skill.
Yeah.
And cut a long story short, really gave it a pretty good go as a player. Came up short. Um, had the awareness to realize that I had the ability to affect others
Yeah.
in the way in which I could communicate, in the way in which I could communicate feels,
All right.
thoughts, how I could turn things from theory into sensation, get people to do things in the moment under pressure. And that just built really. I started off with good juniors, became international golfers.
Yeah.
Lots went on to the tour. Our paths have crossed, my early days on a tour a few years ago,
Mhm.
seen you and seen your brother. And, I'm obviously big fans of you both. And
Mutual,
for
my
me,
friend.
I got deep into the reading. I just started researching and studying, went into thousands of books, and I still do now. And just that inquisitive brain really got me into being somebody who wanted to create solutions.
Mhm.
And initially, it was kind of process and technical solutions for players. Especially my genre was the young player who wanted to be on tour.
All right.
That one with the appetite, the energy, the person that wanted to unlock the secrets to get into, to dine at the top table,
Yeah.
to play at majors, to win majors. And, with that, I went really down the rabbit hole in any particular area of performance. I came from how players think, feel, act, move. For me, it was about studying the whole thing, looking at the person as a whole.
Mhm.
But the training day thing was really, really, really interesting. And you'll have to stop me because I will literally talk all day, Mark.
No,
So,
I want to say no. I'm so glad you're doing this because everyone who listens to this or watches this, we have the most informed golf audience in the world.
wow.
I'm confident. Everyone wants to get better, and I love what you've done as I've watched what you do, because training aids to me, people only really improve if they're purpose driven in their work and if they're working properly. You're not just hitting balls, actually making productive changes. And
Mm,
I feel like always, as my career back in the day as a teacher, the challenge was always to get something from the cerebral to the feel.
mm.
And you've designed what? Like, so how many training aids have you designed?
Um, I've just, I have this thing. I have a little bit of insomnia, so I don't sleep. So I've probably,
I got
I
people that
wake
could
up in
not
the
do
middle of
that.
the night. I got a little red book by my bed, and I've designed thousands
Okay.
of these things. To market, we've just taken 13.
30.
Um, Yeah, yeah. Had two really great partners in the States. Obviously NBC was one of my first partners. They were brilliant to me. Just fantastic. Got me away from my nerves in front of a camera and stuff, and really allowed me to express myself as well, which is cool. But the second partner, golftrainingaids.com, who I've
Yes.
just partnered with, fantastic company, and have a brilliant relationship there. So yeah, we've got 13 training aids at the moment. It's growing all the time. But yeah, it's a solid split really between adult products, and what we do is we're passionate about juniors. So we do pint-sized versions for kids of all the adult range. It's called the Chasing Majors range, which is really, really important to me. You know, having something that doesn't fit for a child. I mean, we all have kids that play right, and you know, if it's a heavy club or it doesn't quite fit or it's awkward, you know, we're having a really negative effect on their progress and their growth.
I'm so glad you would do that too, because it's everyone talks about growing the game, right? And the first place to
Yeah,
grow it is with the young people. Yet
yeah,
we're
yeah,
jamming the wrong size clubs into their hands, and then when folks are using training aids, they're not using something that's appropriate either.
yeah. Exactly my point. But no, going back to the training aid thing, you know, for me, it was never my intention to invent, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
It was really all about, I was working with a young player, he must have been 16, 17, called Ben Taylor. He's on a PGA Tour. He's a guy you would see week in, week out.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben, when he was younger, you know, he had like hockey background, and he really struggled with radius in his backswing. And his left arm would bend an awful lot. And, you know, the kind of where the club would bottom out at the bottom of the swing would be really, really quite inconsistent. And it would involve a lot of good timing. And when he was on, it was great. But when he was off, you know, he didn't really have that connection with feel that you talked about. So I configured a very makeshift do-it-yourself training aid. I had a couple of bits of wood and a tennis ball, and I sent him away for a week to do some reps. And he came back a week later, and as all kids do, he'd worked really, really hard. And do you know what? It had made a significant change to the way in which he moved.
You're preaching to the choir here, and I'm hoping that this resonates with a bunch of the folks listening, because I don't think that's because most folks, as you well know, are going to try and practice something at high speed. They're like, I've got a problem with my driver, so I'm going flat out. They're not changing anything.
Yeah,
And a lot of folks, when they're hitting, they feel like they're doing it, but they're not really doing it because the gap between feel and real is just so gigantic. So I want you
massive.
to, before we kick it off, help people, because I have found, in as much as what I'm preaching your language, I've found that people are too self-aware, maybe, certainly a little nervous to get out there on the practice facility, even the putting green, with a training aid because they feel conspicuous. Help
Yeah.
people over there, because when I go out on the PGA Tour, all and sundry got stuff out there and they don't give a stuff.
Hey, do you know what? This week, even on Amazon this week, I won't name names, but 6 sales through Amazon to PGA Tour players who are playing in the field this week.
Okay, help the amateur golfers listening to this. Who are like,
Okay.
I want to do this because someone's
Okay.
gonna me.
Look for me, you know, I get it. You know, nobody wants to look silly, right? You know, you're standing there, and you know, you think about the tin cup moment with the guy with the, you know, with all the gadgets on him, trying to refine his swing. But training aids really aren't about that. They are taking complexity and allowing you to translate that into feels.
Yeah.
You know, at Shore Golf, we're really passionate. So for us, it's, you know, it's tested in science. You know, we use Michael Neff at Gears to test all of our products. Those
Mhm.
who don't know Michael, he's, you know, he's a great guy, and he does a lot of work with the likes of Tony Finau and Ricky Fowler, and, you know, just name drop a few for you there. But he's an expert in 3D movement, and he really knows the golf swing inside out. So when we create a product, he's the first guy we put it through. And if
Yeah.
he says it's good, if he says the cause and effect is good, you know, then we basically take it out to the tour player, to the coach, and we validate. Once they've validated, it's then about, really, for us, it's allowing the consumer to have a feel-based learning system. Something where there isn't information, there's sensation.
Yeah.
And for me, if you want to get better, you alluded to it earlier, slow down, create a strategy for improvement,
Mm-hmm.
and understand, firstly, have the awareness of what it is you're looking to achieve. You know, what is your inherent pattern, your trait? Sometimes it's, what are you working towards, or what are you working away from?
Yeah.
And with most golfers, it's kind of like, what are you working away from?
Yeah, it's true.
And for us, you know, that's inherent to the, you know, the training aids that we create. We look at the common denominators, the patterns, the things that make golfers erratic, the things that make them inefficient, ineffective. And then we look at it from the other end, not the pain end, but we look at the pleasure end of, okay, what do the world's best do? What are the inherent patterns of greatness?
Mm-hmm.
What do people do that are common, because we're all individual, we all swing different, but at the heart of it are the things you talk about, things I talk about, those key fundamental movements, the things that have to be there for us to have success. And without training aids, it's really about breaking those down so that you can firstly understand them, and secondly, just create repetition so that you can actually make proper state change.
Yes. Okay. Now let's now pivot.
Okay.
I have a couple that I fiddled with the connector. I think it's very cool.
Yep.
I turned it upside down too. I want to get your blessing that was fine when I was using it. Because that for me is sort of represents the tip of the spear. And you talk about things that good golfers do well, and what they do well is they have, a good handle and influence on the club face, and the wrist alignments work well. And I know you got one right behind you over there. Grab your connector. I know you're holding the camera.
You have to apologize. I am actually holding my phone because it's going to drop off, guys. So I'll let me use my coordination skills here and see if I can just keep everything in place for a second while I grab
while he's doing this, audio listeners, he's going to figure out a way to build something to hold his phone up in the right position too.
Yeah.
Dan, the connector, while you get it over there.
Yeah. 2 seconds.
For the audio listener, the connector is basically, I wouldn't call it rubber because it's like a spongy sort of a ball that's had two sides of it lopped off. So imagine a round play ball with like a segment off each side, so it basically looks like a green slice of cheese. And
you got it.
This wonderful soft material that's squeezy and pliable. And if you were really aggravated, you could use it like a stress ball out there too. And then it's got, I think, kind of genius, because there's been an aid before like this that was basically fit between your forearms. What Dan's put through this is like a curved metal bar that goes through it lengthways, and then a little vertical bar that points out the end of it. That's my best radio description.
Do you know what? You did a great job, Mark, because it's training aids are quite hard to describe. They're not great for radio.
There I go. So tell us, because for me, this hits an area that everyone listening to this, even the elites, are always trying to iron out, how the wrist alignments move. And this thing, you can make full swings with it. You can make pitch shots. You can do everything with this training aid. You can putt with it even too.
So I always explain it like this. So if we talk about what it is, it's a super, super soft memory foam ball. Okay. So let's just unravel that for a second. There's a lot of training aids that you can place between the arms, but the majority of the experiences you have with those, although you're going to get some benefit, a lot of them feel uncomfortable.
Yep. True.
Once you add
play the arms a lot too, and you got to work really hard to keep them there.
Yeah. And once you add discomfort and distraction, it's another layer of thinking away from actually trying to develop your game. And distraction, we know in golf, is one of the biggest causes of things going wrong. So for me, when people learn, there has to be it can feel different, but it can't feel uncomfortable physically.
Gotcha.
So look, I went through 50 different foams to start off with. And don't think I'm crazy, but I went through a lot of different foams. I'm very meticulous. Things have to be, I'm a little OCD. Things have to be right. Yeah. So I found the right foam, and this foam it's not only soft, but it's memory foam. So when you're placing a human being with different sized forearms, either side of a ball, you want it to shape and mold to their particular shape. So over time, it becomes your ball, not just the connector, which is really, really cool, I think. It certainly helps me.
Yeah.
And feeling like your arms are in a groove, they're secure. Those things give us a little confidence as well. There's nothing worse than feeling like the ball is going to fly out.
Gotcha.
And the second thing, look, alignments are inherent in every skill in golf. You're from putting to chipping to full swing. How we align the center rod of this ball here and the shaft is so important. It's going to really start to dictate the level of compression you put on the ball. So imagine, a shaft, if you separate that center line and the shaft more and more and more, you're going to have more lean. Exactly. More lean with a square face, you're likely to get some good compression. Whereas when we putt, it's going to be pretty aligned.
Just one sec for the audio listeners here. And what Dan is, because he's doing he's just holding the training aid up so we can see it. And the center line is a short line that points out the end of the
Yeah.
ball. And what he's essentially saying is if you have the ball between your arms, that center line will point straight down the shaft of the club. But then if you
Brilliant.
start to lean the shaft, there'll be a discrepancy between the shaft angle and the line on your ball. Am I doing a good job there
Yeah,
describing?
that's a fantastic job. And you know what we really study is we actually study the average discrepancy between those two lines with good ball strikers.
All right.
You know, if you just take 7-iron, for instance, and I'm an absolute geek for data, with 7-iron, you're going to have a 20-degree discrepancy across an average section of PGA Tour players.
Okay.
So that's quite significant. And don't get me wrong, there's always outliers. There's people that do it different and move their mass across to compress the ball. But generally people do it with lean.
Yeah.
And lean's going to come from an awareness of the back of the right hand. It's going to become a position of how much the body is rotated at a certain stage. And even if you think about those two things for a second, you've got to control the back of the right hand and how much the body's rotating without any feedback. That's pretty tough. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to say, look, here's some feedback. It's obvious, it's vivid. You can see if it's lining up. You can see if you're at 0. You can see if you're at 20, 30, 40. And ultimately, for me, the learning piece is important. And simplicity is always at the heart of good learning, not complexity.
Yeah. The arced bar. If you don't mind, hold it up in front of the camera again so they can see. So that was, you can see there's that arc. It looks like an upside down smile as you're looking
Yeah.
at the training aid. You'll be smiling if you use this thing. Trust me. I've tried it. That's for basically forearm relationship and I guess a bit of a support, or is it purely an alignment aid?
Do you know what? For me, it's a little more than that. So the one thing that everybody gets when they first put it on, just definitely the amateur's right arm and right shoulder is often too close to the golf ball. Yeah. So instantly they see their curve visually as they look down, and the back side of their curve, the bits of their trail side, a right-handed golfer, bits of their right side, would look too straight. So what it allows you to do.
First thing one of my clients said, they're like, this thing's crooked. I'm like, well, yeah.
Something's crooked. So look, it gives two things. It allows you to create a symmetry. Human beings are brilliant at symmetry. We're obsessed with it. Okay. You know, we build houses that have symmetry, roads, paths, cars. You know, we're good at symmetry. Our brains work well with it. And if you give a human being the ability to have an awareness of where they are, their detail is actually pretty good. It's only a lack of awareness generally that hurts alignments. And I think for me, that curved bar firstly allows you to see where the center is. Yeah. So as you said, that center rod pointing somewhat down the shaft towards the ball.
Yeah.
And the second thing it allows you to do is really see that there's a curved arc that's even on the back side and the front. So think about this for a second. You know, golf is an in-to-in game. Yeah. So when you pick it up, it's not that intuitive. You don't see it that way. You know, it's a ball that's on the ground. So when it's on the ground, you're thinking about the swing moving up and down a lot. And second thing, the ball flies through the air. So it's a swing where we feel intuitively that we have to help that action. Whereas if you imagine a baseball swing, you know, it's simple to think at chest high, it's going to be quite a rounded action.
Yeah.
So for me, it stimulates the in-to-in movement of the hand path. And for me, if you look at it with putting, when you guys buy this, which I hope you do, please do. When you buy it, you start with the short game and putting, you'll see that it actually gives you the perfect in-to-in arc from a visual stimulation perspective. Building that arc from small to big really allows you to identify that the golf swing is going to have a curve. And that curve's going to be from in to in.
I love it. And I tell you what, I put it on multiple people, just me. It was kind of like a survey, if you will. And I went to the practice facility or just the chipping area, and I had folks practice with it. And almost instantaneously, I'm getting myself tongue-tied, you could see how the very nature of the arc of the swing would improve. And all they had to do was situate themselves with where the pressure and the mass was, and they would clip balls away there perfectly, because there wasn't this like, well, I've got to swing outside or inside. It was this visual. It's almost like the lines in a coloring book. They're like, okay, now I know where I can operate.
I think you're dead right. I mean, at the heart of good coaching, and I get the pleasure of being around some very good coaches, like yourself, all the guys on the European tour. I like to think that I'm reasonable at it myself, but at the heart of it is always simplicity in their messaging. And they don't. The better the coach, the more simple the messaging. I used to spend a lot of time just listening to how Butch would talk to Tiger. I even Butch. Okay, I was at one Open Championship when I was a kid, and he was coaching Greg Norman, and Greg Norman was driving it everywhere, all over the place, had no control whatsoever. And I was close enough to hear this, and I was listening, and I was thinking, Butch is going to do something amazing here. It's going to be like a reconstruction of
Wait,
complexity.
you were at Royal, so you were at Royal St. George's? You were there. Okay, yeah, okay, keep going. I know where you were. I know where you're going.
Okay, you know where you might know the story.
Mm-hmm.
And all I heard was, Greg, all you need to do is put the ball half an inch forward.
Yeah.
Put it half an inch forward, rip, 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 rip. It was just, the thing was a stripe show. Yeah. And I was like, wow, that's good coaching. Good coaching is to be able to see that. And why I say that, at the heart of what our products, it isn't gadget orientation. We're not actually sales driven. At the heart of them are taking complex messages and allowing you to experience it simply so you can get better at golf. Just like your show, we're here to get people better at golf. That's our intention. And okay. For me, the simplicity of learning by feel rather than by theory is so much easier.
Then being able to go to the golf course on different days and start to promote the similar feel, because we're different human beings every day, but to go there when you have this between your arms, you're practicing in the same vein, essentially, every time you go out there. Hey, I'm coming to the manufacturer and the brains behind the thing, and I'm begging forgiveness, but I'm selling you on something here.
Okay.
I tried this. I put it on someone who had a wicked case over a short shot. The shot was about 30 yards, where there was some pretty violent early extension. The club would the top of the backswing, and then he would just straighten up. And I'm like, wait a second. So I turned your connector ball upside down.
Okay.
So the little vertical bar sticking towards him. I'm like, swing. And in the interest of not poking himself in his midriff, he started to hold his spine angle better too. Is this a thing, or is this something you knew, obviously?
I mean, what we do with and that's a brilliant one, by the way, and I'm going to steal that off of you, Mark. So
go for it.
I'm going to take it, my friend.
Right.
For me, this is why I love coaches. Coaches find different ways to turn a training aid into a tool of, it's like a Black & Decker tool with different heads and different drills, and it can do all sorts of things. And that's that imagination, that acquisitive brain. For me, that idea of just creating the conditions to have a better spine angle at impact, did it for that guy. It was an avoidance technique then. And when you can stimulate learning from just changing the environment of something, all of a sudden there isn't space there for him to inherently move into with his pattern. Yeah. He's got a good chance of performing it. Whereas at high speed before, the awareness and the necessity to move in that pattern is more difficult because it's wired from how much he can concentrate rather than it's obvious I do not want to do myself an injury.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I've kept you for a long time already. One more question about this connector, and then I want to ask you what your favorite one of all yours are, because there's a myriad of them, folks, and you can go to golftrainingaids.com and find them all. I love a training aid that is portable. This is. I love a training aid where one can hit golf balls with it. And where it's not screw upable, because some of these training aids are so difficult to use that people just use them wrong. This one is, you've got to be an ignorant not to use it right. What I do find, though, is folks tend to try and go too fast or too hard with a lot of training aids. So, verbose to beg the question, I don't think, at least tell me if I'm wrong, that you can't go to, with this training aid, the connector. You can go full speed if you want, and you can putt if you want to, right?
Yeah. Look, it's all speed, it's all skills. So if you think about it like that, once we get this, there's two things, okay? It's connection and compression. I would say, are the two real keys with the connector.
All right.
The connector allows us to create and form connection between the arms, inherent trait of anybody from Hogan, Sneed, all the way through to modern day Tiger. That's always been there. The second thing it allows you to have is obvious compression line of impact.
Yeah.
You know, it's really, really important. But the third thing, and this is really, really important, is it allows you to understand how much your arms are rotating throughout the golf swing. That center line is not just about impact, it's about the degree of rotation.
Yeah.
And if you rotate your arms properly, what you'll find as golfers is that your lead arm won't bend as much in the backswing. You'll rotate better with your torso because it's designed, that lead arm's designed to rotate as you turn back and rotate as you turn through. So you'll get a wider arc, something that works on a more circular basis. And those are really the things we see very, very, very quickly. But going back to your point, go at your own speed. I would still suggest taking it easy, because when you go a little slower, you become more aware.
Yeah.
But I think with this particular training aid, the connector, I don't think you have to do it for long. That's the improvement of it. I think within a session, you can be back up to full speed.
Hey, I'm going to, one more. You've tickled my sensibility when you talked about the forearm rotation.
Okay.
Because the truth of it is we live in an era where information is rampant. Most folks are taking other people's medicine. They're trying things that they shouldn't because they've listened to a podcast like this or whatever. They're like, yeah, that's me. And that makes me angry. But you talked there about the rotation of the forearms, and we live in an era now where people are talking about reducing rate of closure and all this sort of stuff, where your average golfer listening to this, they need more closure through the golf ball. And that's what I love about your aid, because when you do swing through, you'll see that little short vertical line. It'll be turning for right-handers counterclockwise, almost like the second hand on your wristwatch.
And I think there's two things, okay? There's quantity of rotation, and then there's timing of rotation. And I think the one thing for me is, you know, there is lag in a golf swing. So it has to happen before, in your mind, it has to happen before impact. You know, it can't happen late. You know, late closers are the guys that just leak this thing all over the place to the right. If you watch the best players in the world, it is closed early. It's a little more stable through the bottom because it doesn't have to flip and roll. Yeah. And the idea of understanding the open to close thing, you know, it is a game changer in your mind when you start to look at the symmetry of the connector and you're kind of like, look, it opens and it closes. You know, you build that up in speed and all of a sudden you understand there is a certain amount of symmetry to backswing and through swing.
Yes. So folks, when you get your connector, you'll realize that those balls you're blasting, actually not even blasting, they're flying weakly off and curving to the right. It's not that you lifted your head, it's that you haven't applied wrists and forearms appropriately. Okay.
Yeah.
Dan, legendary stuff. You've got multiple training aids. I'll tell you which one I'm really interested to mess around with. That's that Eduardo Molinari one. So I'll let you tell us a bit about that. I believe it's the Shore Strike. But all of them, tell me what your favorite is.
Yeah, look,
I
have the pleasure of working with Ryder Cup Vice Captain Eduardo Molinari. Great guy, intelligent, you know, just classy individual. It was in Turin actually about a month ago, shooting some content with him, and you know, we just kept talking. You know, we talk about training, we talk about the effect and the science, and you know, he's really, really loves the company because we're meticulous, you know, in testing. We make sure things work. Favorites for him, Shore Strike, which is it's really an impact trainer. Right. So quite a few out there will have tried the Shore Set. You know, Shore Set really kicked off 7-8 years ago on a golf channel. It's just fantastic. You got it. Takeaway and backswing trainer. Was super successful. Really helped me, you know, get some presence and really get into the training aid, you know, industry. That was the one I made for the young kid. You know, initially it grew into a really, really successful product. But the Shore Strike has an extra hinge. It basically points down to the floor. So it allows you to understand the side-to-side action of the hands and wrists. We talk about lean again. Lean and impact alignments, because it happens so fast, they're quite hard to feel. Yeah. You know, that golf club is wanting to accelerate at different times, and sometimes just the bottom of the swing is lost on people. And for me, if you can lock in that lean and you can lock in the width from your left arm to the handle, and you can start to make baby swings and rehearse it, what you'll get is you'll get a little bit of reverse engineering from your body. It'll actually start to create the movements that are required to actually put some pressure into impact. The shorts, all of the products really, they all come with a heap of bonus content. Every time you buy one, there's a QR code on the box. It takes you through to not only how to use the product out of the box. Unfortunately, you have to listen to me and some friends. But we do run through, like, we try and hold your hand. We run through, look, this is how it is. This is its purpose. Then this is its basic function. And then we start to get a little more into it as to this is how it helps you apply to different, this is how it should apply to different skills. Cool. Against different people. If you're a fader, if you're a drawer, if you hook, if you top. And we try and give you some nice information around how specific it can be to you. And the idea of learning is bespoke. We're all individuals, we're all different. And we can have fundamental patterns and things that grow those, but it's got to be something that helps you. And, as a company, I know, President John at golftrainingaids.com and I really align on this. We're passionate about giving people not lots of information, but the right information alongside a training aid. So for me, the other one as well, I will go, I've just got back from Madrid, literally. I've been at the Spanish Open this week. The tour field, I handed out 42 this week to players. It was pretty cool. I've been sending them out. People have been sending me messages on Insta saying, "Are you coming out to an event? Can I try it?" And yeah, a heap of guys took it this week. And that's actually a strap that goes off the lead shoulder. Yeah. It's a harness. It's a harness that goes around just off the lead shoulder, and that allows you to hit shots with the sensation of that width, maintaining width from setup to backswing to through swing. If you haven't checked that one out, there's loads of videos at suregolf.com with Molinari demonstrating it, talking through it. It's really, really cool.
And I would contend, folks, that width is the biggest golf swing savior. I mean, almost, equally as important as, just rhythm and timing and tempo.
Yeah.
On Dan's social media, you'll see Jazz, Jane Watananon hitting with it as well.
Do you know what? Yeah, that was I think it was Monday afternoon or Tuesday. And Jazz is a cool guy. And Jazz uses them in two different ways, really. So Jazz is using the tour field for his long game. Yeah. And then he's dialing in the short game with the connector. So he's chipping and pitching with a connector so he can really be aware of those rotations. But hitting drivers, full swing, full speed, the tour field it's pretty cool. So
sensational. Okay, so I've teased it. So you said to suregolf.com or to golftrainingaids.com. Your social media and a website, please share the handles.
So yeah, for me, my handle is always at Dan Frost Golf. I've got about 3 followers, so if anybody would follow me, that would increase it. And then just Shore_golf on Instagram. Look, we post what the tour players do. If they send us a video, we put it on there. And these products, these products are new. There's some exciting stuff in there. There's new stuff to see. And for us, it's a pleasure to be able to help the consumer with their game. And, we understand that, this is a game that if you play it well, it's so much more enjoyable. It's so much more enjoyable. I have people say to me, "Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter how I play. I have a great day."
That's rubbish.
I don't buy that one.
Okay. Well, listen, I appreciate you for what you do for the industry. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing the insight. Thanks for making good training aids available because, folks, you're only going to get better. Or as our friend Martin Hall says, if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. So it's time to go try the Shore golf stuff.
I learned so much of that guy as well. What a guy. Just absolutely fantastic. But no, appreciate your time. And thank you so much for having me on, Mark. It's great to see you again and must catch up in person at some stage.
I look forward to it. You take care.
Take care. Thank you so much.